The knock came soft, almost apologetic, like the hand on the door already knew it was not welcome. 3 quiet taps, just before the sun slipped behind the houses and turned the street orange. Inside the home, laughter stopped. A chair scraped. Someone sighed. When the door opened, time seemed to pause, because the man standing there did not look like the son who left. He did not look like the brother they remembered. He looked small, worn down. His jacket hung loose on his shoulders. His shoes were dusty, cracked at the sides. His face carried the kind of tired that sleep could not fix. For a second, nobody spoke. Then eyes began to move. Slow, careful, measuring him from head to toe. Like he was an object someone was thinking about returning. Asterisk before the story continues, take a brief moment. If this story is touching your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with others. Your support gives us the strength to keep bringing you more powerful stories like this. Now let's continue. Years ago, he walked out of this same house wearing a clean suit and a confident smile. He promised he would make it. Promised he would come back different. Promised he would lift everyone with him. Now he stood there pretending he never made it at all, pretending life broke him, pretending money never touched his hands. The silence stretched. It wrapped around him. No one stepped forward. No arms opened. No voice said his name with joy. Instead, faces tightened, brows pulled together. A whisper slipped out from somewhere behind the door. Disappointment had a sound, and he heard it clearly. He smiled anyway. A small smile. A careful one. The kind of smile people wear when they are bracing for pain they already expect. His heart was beating fast, but his face stayed calm. This was the moment. The test he had planned on long nights alone. Not a test of success, not a test of money, a test of love. He wanted to see what remained when everything shiny was stripped away. He wanted to know who he was to them when he had nothing to offer but his presence. They stepped aside and let him in. But it felt like letting a stranger cross the line, not family returning home. The door closed behind him with a dull sound. That felt final. He stood in the living room. The same room where he once slept on the floor so his younger brother could have the bed. The same room where he counted coins at night, promising himself one day he would fix the cracks in the walls. Those cracks were still there, running like scars. He wondered, for a brief second, if they saw the irony. He doubted it. Someone pointed to the couch without looking at him. He sat. The cushions sank low, just like his chest did. He noticed how people shifted their bodies away, creating space, like poverty could rub off if they sat too close. A plate of food that had been on the table disappeared into the kitchen. Conversations picked up again, but quieter now, careful, like he was not meant to hear. Every laugh felt forced. Every word felt distant. He had been gone for years, but this distance felt new, sharp, heavy. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, his voice was soft. Grateful he thanked them for letting him stay. The words tasted strange in his mouth. Letting him stay? This was the home he dreamed of buying new furniture for. The home he already paid bills for without their knowledge. But tonight, he was a burden. A reminder of failure. A mirror they did not want to look into. His sister glanced at him once, then looked away fast, like she was embarrassed. His brother's eyes held a different look. Not pity. Something harder. Something closer to judgment. Like he was being weighed and found lacking. He felt it settle on his shoulders, heavier than any bag he ever carried. He realized then how thin respect really was. How easily it vanished. When people thought you had nothing, as the evening dragged on, he became invisible, and too visible at the same time. Invisible when it came to warmth, too visible when it came to blame. Every movement he made felt watched. Every silence felt loud. He could hear his own breathing. He could hear the house settling. He could hear the unspoken question hanging in the air. What went wrong with you? He went to wash his hands and caught his reflection in the mirror. For a moment, he almost did not recognize himself either. He saw the man they saw. Poor, tired, unsuccessful. He thought about the bank accounts they did not know about, the businesses, the powers sitting quietly behind this disguise. And instead of pride, he felt sadness. Deep and cold. Because if love depended on proof, then love was already broken. When he returned to the living room, the conversation stopped again. Not fully, just enough to remind him where he stood. He sat back down. His hands rested on his knees. He remembered the nights he went hungry so his siblings could eat. Remembered promises whispered to the ceiling that one day they would never feel small again. Tonight, they made him feel smaller than he ever had. The hardest part was not pretending to be poor. It was watching how quickly respect disappeared. How quickly his value dropped when his success was taken away. He wondered if they would speak to him the same way tomorrow. If things would get colder, he wondered how long he could keep this. Up without letting the truth slip out just to protect his heart as the lights dimmed and people drifted to their rooms. No one asked how his journey had been. No one asked if he was okay. Someone pointed to a thin mattress on the floor and said that was where he could sleep. He nodded. Thanked them again. Gratitude felt like a performance now, but he kept it up. Lying there in the dark, staring at the ceiling he once stared at as a boy, he felt a weight press on his chest. This house was full of people, yet he had never felt so alone. He closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to prepare. Because this was only the beginning. And if this was how they treated him on the first night, he knew the days ahead would reveal even more. Morning came quietly, but the cold was already there. It sat in the corners of the house. In the way people moved past him without greeting. In the way doors closed a little harder when he entered a room. Days passed, and the mask stayed on. He kept his head low, his voice soft. He asked for a little caramel, almost nothing. When someone needed water, he brought it. When the floor was dirty, he swept without being asked. When dishes piled up, his hands reached for them first. He tried to be useful, tried to be invisible, but every kind act was met with the same look, suspicion. Like kindness from a poor man always came with a hidden price. His brother did not bother hiding it. The mockery came easy to him, sharp words thrown like stones. So this is what you became, he said one morning, loud enough for everyone to hear. All those years away, and you came back empty. The laugh that followed was cruel and short. It hung in the air, daring anyone to challenge it. No one did. His sister sat at the table, eyes fixed on her phone, pretending not to hear, pretending not to see him. Shame wrapped around her like a blanket, and she chose it over him, every time, at dinner. The message was delivered without words. Plates were filled, then passed over him. When his food finally arrived, it was smaller, the pieces left behind, the parts no one wanted. He ate slowly, quietly. He chewed the taste of humiliation along with the cold food. No one asked if it wasn't it. No one noticed when he stopped eating halfway through. The truth was clear. In this house, value was measured by what you could bring. And they believed he brought nothing. He started to hear things he was not meant to hear. Conversations whispered behind walls. Voices dropping when he walked by. One night, as he washed his hands in the sink, he heard his name. He froze, stayed still, listened. If he was successful, he'd show it, someone said. The words were, calm, certain. Another voice replied, people like him always come back when they need something. There was a pause, then agreement, soft laughs. The kind that hurts more than shouting ever could. Each word landed heavy, because he remembered the nights those same voices cried about bills, about rent, about school fees. He remembered working late, tired hands, signing checks he never put his name on. He remembered choosing silence so they could feel proud instead of grateful. And now, that silence was being used against him. The injustice did not scream. It pressed, slowly, hour by hour, making his chest feel tight, making his breathing shallow. He wanted to speak. Many times, the truth sat right there. Ready? One sentence could change everything. One reveal could flip the room. But he swallowed it back every time. Because this was not about proving he was better than them. It was about seeing them clearly. Seeing what they did when they thought he was nothing. And what he saw hurt more than he expected. His brother grew bolder with each passing day. Words turned into commands. If you're going to stay here, you should earn it, he said one afternoon, tossing him a dirty bag of trash. He took it without a word, took it outside. His hands shook, but his face stayed calm. Resistance would only feed the fire. Silence was his shield. Even when it cut him too, there were moments he caught his sister watching him when she thought he wasn't looking. Her eyes held something close to regret, but it never lasted. The moment he turned, she looked away. Chose distance, chose safety, chose not to remember the brother who once walked her to school every day, rain or shine. The house felt smaller with each sunrise. Walls closing in, air growing thin. He spent more time outside, sitting on the steps, staring at the street. Cars passed by. Paul laughed. Life moved on without noticing the quiet war happening inside that home. At night, lying on the thin mattress, he replayed every word thrown at him. Every look that said, you failed. He wondered how long a person could stay silent before something inside them broke. Then one night, it finally exploded. It started small. A comment at the table. A joke that went too far. His brother stood up, anger sharp in his voice. You came back and embarrassed us, he said. The words were aloud now. No hiding. We told people you were doing big things. We told them you made it. And you walk in here like this? His hand waved over him like he was pointing at trash. Needed a hero? Not a beggar. The room went still. Completely still. Even the air seemed to freeze. All eyes turned to him. Waiting. watching, expecting something, an apology, a fight, a breakdown. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it. This was it, the moment that mattered. He could feel the weight of the truth pressing against his teeth, begging to be spoken. He looked at his brother, really looked at him, saw the anger, the fear, the pride twisted into something ugly. He looked at his sister, her eyes wide now, caught between guilt and loyalty. He looked at the faces that shared his blood but not his compassion, and he understood something then. This test was never about money, it was about hearts, and what he saw was colder than poverty. He opened his mouth, closed it again. The silence stretched. It screamed louder than any answer. Slowly, he lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. The words tasted bitter. Not because they weren't true, but because they were all he was allowed to say. His brother scoffed. Satisfaction flashed across his face. Victory, earned through cruelty. He stood up and walked away, each step heavy. Behind him, the room slowly filled with noise. Again, plates moved, chairs scraped. Life went on, but something had shifted. The line had been crossed, and though he stayed silent, something inside him hardened. Because he now knew exactly where he stood. And he knew the truth could not stay buried forever. That night, lying in the dark, he stared at the ceiling and felt a calm settle over him. Not peace, resolve. The test was working. The mask was holding, but time was running out. And when the truth finally came, it would not come gently. The moment came quietly, almost like it didn't want to be noticed. A knock at the door in the middle of the afternoon. Not soft this time, firm, confident. The kind of knock that belonged to someone who expected the door to open. Everyone in the house paused. His brother frowned, already annoyed. His sister glanced up, nervous for reasons she didn't understand yet, and he felt it before anyone said a word. That shift in the air, that feeling when something long buried is about to rise. When the door opened, the man standing there didn't hesitate. Clean suit, sharp shoes, calm eyes. He carried a slim folder under his arm, and confidence in the way he stood. He didn't scan the room like a stranger. He stepped in like someone who belonged. His voice was clear, respectful. "I'm here to see him," he said, and then he spoke the name. His name? The room froze. The sound of it landed heavy, like it didn't match the image they had built of him. A poor man, a failure, a burden. Before anyone could speak, he stood up, slowly, no rush. His back straightened. His shoulders rolled back like they remembered who they were. The tired slump disappeared. His eyes lifted, steady now, sharp with calm. He looked at the visitor and offered a small nod. "Sorry to keep you waiting," he said. His voice was different, still quiet, but firm, controlled. The kind of voice people listened to without knowing why. Confusion spread across the room like smoke. His brother's mouth opened, then closed. His sister's eyes widened. They watched him move, like they were seeing him for the first time. The visitor smiled, respectful, and held out the folder. Papers inside. Important papers. The kind that didn't belong to a man sleeping on a thin mattress on the floor. He took them without urgency, then turned back to his family. The silence was thick now, heavy enough to press against their chests. Nobody spoke. Nobody laughed. Nobody looked comfortable. He took a breath. Not to prepare himself, but to give them time. "I think it's time I stopped pretending," he said. His words were simple, calm. They cut deeper than shouting ever could. His brother let out a nervous laugh, like this was some kind of joke. But it died fast when he didn't smile back. His sister's hands began to shake, resting in her lap, fingers twisting together. Then, the truth came. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just honest. He spoke about the years he was gone. The businesses he built from nothing. The risks. The nights he didn't sleep. The deals that almost broke him. The investments that finally paid off. He spoke about the millions earned quietly, carefully, without noise. He spoke about the house they were standing in, the one he bought and put in their name, the debts he cleared, the bills he paid, the school fees, the rent, all of it done without asking for thanks. Without asking to be seen. Each sentence landed like thunder. Not loud, but powerful. Faces, drained of color. His brother took a step back, like the floor had shifted under him. His sister covered her mouth, tears forming fast, spilling before she could stop them. The same people who laughed at him, who fed him scraps, who called him a beggar, couldn't meet his eyes anymore. Shame filled the room, thick and choking, but he didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult them. He didn't throw their words back at them, even though he could have. Instead, he spoke about dignity, about how poverty doesn't change a person. It reveals them. Having nothing shows you exactly who is willing to stand with you and who is waiting for you to fall. He spoke slowly, letting every word breathe, letting them feel it. "Money can buy comfort," he said, It can buy space. It can buy silence. His eyes moved across the room, meeting each face for just a second. But it can't buy loyalty. And it can't buy compassion. His brother swallowed hard. His sister's shoulders shook as she cried quietly. No one interrupted. No one dared. Regret filled the space where judgment once lived. Apologies began to spill out. Fast. Desperate. His sister reached for him, words tumbling over each other. We didn't know, she said. I didn't know. His brother tried next. Voice breaking. Pride cracking. I was angry, he said. I thought you failed. The words sounded weak. Now small. Too late. He listened. He didn't stop them. He didn't comfort them either. He just listened. Arms at his sides, face calm. Because something had changed. The power had shifted, but not in the way they expected. It wasn't the money that held the room. It was the truth. The truth of who he was. And who they had been to him. When the apologies slowed, silence returned. A different kind this time. Heavy with understanding. He looked around the room. Last time. At the walls he once dreamed of fixing. At the faces that shared his blood but failed his heart. I didn't come back to prove I was rich, he said quietly. I came back to see if I was loved. His voice didn't shake. But something in the room did. No one answered. They couldn't, because the answer was written all over their faces. He nodded, more to himself than to them. The visitor cleared, his throat softly, reminding everyone he was still there. Reality pressing back in. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. For a moment, it looked like he might say more. Like he might soften. He didn't. As he stepped outside, the sun hung low again, just like the day he arrived. Behind him, the house stood silent, full of people who finally saw the man they had already lost. And inside that silence was a lesson they would never forget. That respect given to late still costs everything. The night after the truth came out was heavy, not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. The kind of heavy that sits on your chest and makes sleep hard to find. No one knew where to stand anymore. The laughter was gone. The sharp words were gone. What remained was the sound of regret moving through the house like a slow wind. He stayed quiet, not because he had nothing to say, but because everything that needed to be said had already landed. Hard, clear, permanent. They expected punishment. You could see it in their eyes. His brother waited for anger, for revenge, for the moment when money would be used like a weapon. His sister waited for rejection, for him to turn his back the way they once did to him. But that moment never came. Instead, he sat with them in the same room where he had been humiliated. Same walls, same couch, same air. Only now, the power had changed shape. I'm not here to hurt you, he said calmly. His voice was steady, not soft, not loud. Honest, I'm here to be honest. His brother lowered his head. His sister wiped her face, already crying. He told them he forgave them. Not because what they did didn't matter, but because he refused to let bitterness own him. Forgiveness, he exclaimed, was not permission. It was freedom. But it came with boundaries. He told them the money would stop doing the talking. That help would no longer come quietly, while respect disappeared loudly. That if they wanted a place in his life, it would be built on humanity, not need. On love, not benefit. The words were firm. Final. No room for negotiation. This was not a threat. It was a line drawn with clarity. That was when the family broke down, not because the money was changing, but because they finally understood what they had lost before they even knew it was there. They cried because they saw how easily they traded love for status. How quickly they turned their backs when pride felt safer than compassion. They cried because they saw themselves clearly for the first time, and clarity can hurt worse than punishment. His sister reached for his hand again. This time, he let her hold it. But he did not promise anything. Healing, he knew, did not happen. In moments, it happened in choices made over time. His brother tried to speak, but the words failed him. Shame had taken his voice. He nodded instead, and for the first time, that nod meant more than any excuse. Morning came quietly. Sunlight crept through the windows, touching the same walls that once watched him sleep on the floor. He packed his small bag without rushing. The house was awake, but no one moved much. They watched him the way people watch something leaving that they are not ready to lose. At the door, he paused. Not for drama, not for one last speech, just long enough to breathe. I hope we do better, he said. Not accusing, not bitter, just honest. Then he stepped outside. He walked away from the house, not as a poor man, and not as a millionaire. He walked away as someone who understood the cost of testing hearts. He understood now that love revealed under pressure is the only kind that matters. Some relationships, he knew, would heal slowly, carefully. Others would never be the same. And he accepted that. Because not every Bond survives the truth, and forcing it only breaks it further. As he moved forward with his life, he carried the lesson with him. He remembered the stares, the silence, the way respect vanished when people thought he had nothing, and he promised himself he would never measure another person that way. Power, he learned, does not always announce itself. Sometimes it walks in quietly, dressed in worn clothes, waiting to see who will still offer a seat. This was never just a story about money. It was a story about dignity. It's about how quickly power can blind compassion, about how easy it is to forget someone's worth when you think they can't give you anything, and about how true wealth has nothing to do with what sits in your bank account. True wealth is how you treat people when no one is watching, how you speak to those who can't help you climb, how you open your door when pride tells you to close it. Because in the end, the way you treat someone at their lowest will always reveal who you are at your core. And that is the price of respect.